Welcome to a brand new feature here on my YouTube channel. It's one that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and being able to pin our sports expert down has proved quite difficult because he has another job. I don't know why he has another job. He should be doing sport full time. But finally, it's here. Sports with Kev Freeman. Welcome to the channel.
Oh, at last, Gordy. So good to be here with you and all your viewers and listeners and people all around the world, because you, of course, have such a big international following these days, being one of the big voices of Ironman around the world. So, yeah, great to be with you, Gords. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm very excited about episode 1, Kev, because then it's going to be the first of hopefully many episodes, because you, like me, are very passionate about sport. The difference between you and me is you know what you're talking about, and I'm just one of those armchair critics. Which is why I felt that doing this segment on the YouTube channel would be a good thing to do, so you could give us a little bit of a look behind the scenes. Let's not waste any time. Let's go straight into one of the proudest moments in South African cricket. No, it's not the men's team. It is, in fact, our women's team that competed in the locally hosted T20 World Cup. And it was great to see stadiums full in South Africa watching quality women's cricket.
Well, it was amazing, Gordon. I think a lot of euphoria was on the back end of a successful CSA 20 that's got people interested in cricket again. But yeah, like you say, lovely to have so many people out supporting the ladies. And with the Protea ladies going on all the way into the final, and to see a sellout stadium in Newlands was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, very, very good for the local game, and very exciting, and hope we can build on this momentum going forward.
Let's just talk about those Protea ladies. There were a lot of great performances by many of the countries, the nations that took part, but I want to focus on that because, well, I'm South African and biased. That was really a fairy tale competition for them. They were amazing.
Well, they were absolutely amazing, Gordy. And the thing to bear in mind, I didn't think they were going to do as well, because there was all the controversy about the regular captain, Danae van Niekerk, being left out of the side ahead of the tournament. And I mean, she literally missed out on fitness issues and selection issues on that basis. And she was something like sort of 2 minutes off the pace of the sprint or whatever it was. It was very, very close, the reason that kept her out. And I thought that might possibly have caused some disruption within the camp, in that some of the players would have felt it, especially that her partner is one of the integral players in the side in Marizanne Cup. I didn't kind of know what the effect of that was going to be. Marizanne actually left their camp for a while just to go and be with Danae. But, well, they all came back and they gelled brilliantly. And I think what got us to that final was a team effort. Like you say, there were standout performances from different players virtually in every game, which was great. I mean, our stalwart, Laura Wolfhard, for example, didn't hit her straps right from the beginning. But, boy, did she play well when it counted in the knockout games in the semi-final. And she gave a really great effort in the final as well. So, you know, it was, like you say, a fairy tale performance.
One of the things that stood out to me when I watched those games, particularly watching the South African ladies play, is that sense of teamwork. You spoke about that briefly. They're a very tight unit, and it's almost like the way New Zealand men play cricket, where everyone's got everyone else's back. Yes,
absolutely. It was very, very much like you say, a team effort, and even a couple of surprise players. For me, a lot of criticism was leveled at the wicketkeeper, Jefta, but she actually, for me, often came in and smacked a few runs with the bat low down in the order that just got us to that competitive total, or just gave us a little bit of an edge towards the end of the innings, shifted momentum. Momentum in T20 cricket is huge. And I felt there were a couple of knocks that she played where that just really kind of probably gave us that little extra 5% going into the second half of the games. And her keeping, yeah, she might have missed one or two here and there. But I generally was disappointed with the standard of fielding in the ladies' game, and maybe that's harsh and unplaced compared to the men's game. But I do think that's an area most of the ladies' teams could work on. And also something else which I wanted to touch on with the ladies' game is game awareness. Something which I think I saw quite a few instances of that in various games. I mean, fortunately enough, living here in Kobega, Port Elizabeth, to able to go and actually watch a couple of the games at St. George's. And one which springs to mind was the game between Ireland and India, right towards the back end of the tournament. And it was a rain-affected game in the end. And the Irish ladies were chasing, and they got off to a poor start. They lost 2 wickets in the first over, a run out of the very first ball. I mean, how crazy is that? How do you get run out of the first ball? But it happens. But then they were actually starting to pick up the pieces. Their captain, Laura Delaney, and I forget who she was with at the time, but the two of them had put together a good partnership. And they were 5 runs behind on Duckworth Lewis. And then the rain came. So India ended up going on and winning that match by those 5 runs on Duckworth-Lewis. And Delaney in the post-match interview said, oh, yes, we weren't actually watching the Duckworth-Lewis pass score, which I thought, you know, for an international captain to admit on live national or international television that you weren't watching the Duckworth-Lewis pass score. Just there for me was an example of game awareness, but also general things, the running between the wickets. I find the ladies tend to ball watch a little bit before they commit to going for the run, that type of thing. So I think it's something which we'll see evolving and the game growing in those areas being improved upon. Certainly, hopefully the coaches might, of course, be watching and listening to us, Gordon, and take our advice.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm glad that I'm not on the field, because I think any one of those ladies would run rings around me at any given time. But yes, that kind of experience from these big match tournaments, is something that takes time to get into, and I think the more that we can encourage women's cricket to play more tournaments and to be on the field in a competitive way more than not, will make a massive difference to those kind of issues that you're mentioning there. That big match temperament comes from big matches. You don't get it in a practice session. Kev, I just want to throw this at you, and the guys are going to hate me for this, but ICC tournaments for South African cricket has never been a good thing with our choke label that we have. Didn't seem to happen with our girls. There were 1 or 2 moments where everyone was holding their breath going, oh, please don't choke, but they did well.
No, they did very, very well. And I mean, if you look at the success that the Australian ladies team has had over sort of a decade, it was always going to be a tough call for us to beat them. I think a lot of things would have had to go our way on the day. Some of them almost did. I really felt if we'd knocked over the top 3 Australian ladies quickly, we might have been in with it. But the likelihood of that happening between Alyssa Healy, Beth Mooney and the like, they're always going to get in and dig in and play the beginnings as Beth Mooney did. So it was tough on our ladies. And I must be honest, I'm rather glad we lost by 16 runs rather than by 4 runs, because if we lost by 4 runs, then we're going to be going that fielding blunder there, or the little slip up there, or the run you could have taken. We'd have had a lot of the ifs and buts going on there. So I think fair play to Australia. They outplayed us in the final, but our ladies can hold their heads up absolutely high, very, very proudly. And as you say, that was not a choke. That was just simply the better team on the day. One, we were competitive, which is what I liked. A lot of people were saying, oh, we'll be all out for 50 and Australia walk all over us. It wasn't as easy as that for the Australians. There were some tense moments for them in that final as well. It wasn't all a walkover for them.
Yeah, long live women's cricket in South Africa. And hopefully, if it does anything, it'll maybe get the schools to encourage more women's cricket at school level, which I think is important.
Well, if I can interject there and say my 2 daughters have taken up cricket a little more seriously now at school this term, or on the back of being at the SA20 games and seeing the Ladies World Cup in action. Yes. So it is definitely, if I speak from my own experience, inspiring the kids.
Absolutely. Exactly. I love that. Okay, moving from women's cricket to men's cricket, South Africa playing against the West Indies. Markram got a century, which is great. Themba Bavuma is now our test captain. He didn't do quite as well as Markram did. Right, tell us more.
Yeah, disappointing for Themba. I do think that Cricket South Africa and whoever the selectors are these days, because let's face it, it was Victor Mbitsang. He seems to have been sidelined. Now it seems to be up to the coaching staff that have selected the squad. It's on a trial basis. So we've got Shukri Conrad now in charge of the test side. Maybe a little unknown on the international stage, but I quite like Shukri. He's had a lot of involvement in cricket structures in South Africa, and an experienced guy. He's been in the commentary box before. He's shared the sentiment of the public very often with strange selections, or why is the form player not being played? So I think he's made some bold selections with the test squad, and granted it's only against the West Indies, but we're playing so little test cricket as it is in South Africa at the moment, which I personally found sad. For me, I'm a purist, and that's the purest form of the game. But to be that as it may, I think we've only got 3 test matches in the current season, 2 against the Windies and 1 coming up towards the end of this year. It's crazy. So he's gone with Themba as the test captain, and I understand that Themba's been removed as the white ball captain, and I think that's what cricket lovers in South Africa have been calling for. So I think, unfortunate for Themba, back-to-back ducks, pressure on the guy. Everybody's talking him down behind the scenes, or a lot of guys are talking him down behind the scenes. I truly believe he'll still have the ability to bounce back. It's just how long the faith is going to be shown in him. I think he's got the record now of having played the most amount of test matches as a recognised batsman with the least return in terms of centuries. He's only got that 1 century on debut against England. So, there's work there for Denver to do, definitely. But, be that as it may. It's been a strange game. I just quickly popped on to check the score before we came online now. And the Proteas have collapsed in the second innings. I was 78 for 7 a short while ago. We had a lead of about 130 odd. So we're just over 200 ahead with 3 wickets remaining. It gives the West Indies a sniff. The pitch obviously is a little bit unpredictable. I mean, day one, Alga and Markram looked as though there were no troubles at all, and they had a massive partnership. As you say, Aiden went on to get his test ton. And then just suddenly the wickets fell. But the same happened in the West Indies innings. A whole cluster of wickets in the afternoon session on day 2. We're into day 3 now, and a whole cluster of wickets have fallen at Centurion this morning. So hopefully the wickets will continue to fall. Our pace attack is deadly in this game. Young Gerald Coetzee, 22 years old, making his test debut. I felt he looked the part. He only picked up 1 wicket in the West Indies first dig, but he's got pace, and he was pretty accurate from the get-go. He didn't look like a debutant. He didn't look nervous. And, I mean, what can we say about Heinrich Nortje, one of the fastest bowlers in world cricket at the moment? A 5 for him in the first innings. Hopefully he can repeat it in the second innings.
Yeah, we're known for our pace bowlers, aren't we? We're known for the guys that rush in and bowl at 140, 150
I can put a little punt in from one of our Warriors locals. Watch out for the name Bayers Swanepoel. He's a local guy, youngster bowling here for the Warriors. He's just taken his first 10-wicket haul in the 4-day CSA competition. Wow. I've been watching quite a bit of cricket over the summer season at St. George's. I find it's just a nice place to be in PE, and it's great vibe always. I've been going and watching. I'm kind of the only man and his dog at the ground for the 4-day stuff, which is all disappointing. But I've been very impressed with Bayers. Accurate, pace, thinking bowler, and he's quite a handy lower order batsman. So I wouldn't be against that name popping up in SA selection in the not too far distant future.
Yeah, that's what you want to see. You want to see a succession planning with cricket and see these young guys coming through from high school to club to provincial and eventually to national. Let's move across now to rugby. I'm not going to throw too much at you in rugby. I just want your opinion. For the last few years, we have been booted out of Super Rugby, which was very strange, and now thrust into the European Rugby Championship, the URC. And now there's some rumblings in the European Rugby Championship about the fact that they don't like the South Africans. Maybe it's because we're good at rugby. What's your opinion on Super Rugby versus the URC?
Yeah, it's been refreshing, actually, Gordon, to see us being part of the URC. And for me, I think it's actually had some interesting benefits, and possibly why they're not enjoying it from the European side, is that we have far less jet lag on our players. The traveling is far more convenient for us, just basically heading up straight from Africa up to the top. So I think jet lag is a huge factor for these players. I mean, you travel yourself a lot. You will know the impact of going far and wide. So I think the recovery period is a lot easier for the players, which obviously is going to have a knock-on effect into their on-field performances, which we're starting to see. I mean, I think the Stormers are sitting second on the log at the moment. So, yeah, and as you say, we're ruffling a few feathers on that side. I think the Northern Hemisphere hates the fact that we are multiple World Cup winners when it comes to rugby. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. And I think the time difference factor is a lot better as well. I mean, waking up at sort of 3 a.m. to watch a game live out of Oz and New Zealand. And I guess the same is true for the people in Australia and New Zealand when the games are played in South Africa. It's a massive time difference for TV audiences. And we all know the money talks at the end of the day with these competitions, and it's TV rights and sponsorships and advertisers and the like. So, yeah, I think URC's been good, and I personally hope it actually continues for a while.
All right. So no regrets about Super Rugby there from you. I tend to agree. I think there's possibly, I'm going to be careful how I say this, not better competition in the European Rugby Championship, but perhaps stiffer competition over a longer period of time, which is great for the boys getting more time on the field. We'll talk about Springbok Rugby next time you and I chat. Right, moving across, Manchester United. If you're a Man United fan, you've been waiting a long time to see some...
Remind us.
It's been a long time since we've seen any silverware other than the knives and forks in the restaurant. But they got themselves a trophy. Yeah, well done.
They did. Go Man United. Yes, they did. No, well played to them. And it just shows you can't keep a good club down forever and ever and ever. So, yeah, good to see them back and having some success on the field for a change. And they've also been through a lot of changes in sort of recent times. And, yeah, I guess maybe they found the right mix and the right combo now, and they're settling down into a good pattern of play when it comes to football.
Yeah, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was meant to be the savior of all things because he was a great player. He was known as the super sub, but unfortunately, as manager of the club, didn't quite deliver. And now it seems like they've got the right man at the helm, and they're managing to hold on to some of those key players without all that locker room nonsense, which does make a massive impact on the game. I don't think most of us realize, Kev, how much behind the scenes affects on the pitch.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we've seen that locally with some of our other sporting codes as well, when there's a lot of interference, be it political, be it people who aren't suited for the job. And as you say, just because you were a great player on the pitch as a footballer doesn't automatically qualify you as being a great manager, a great coach, great leader. So, yeah, as you say, if the right people in the job and your background is settled and stable, your performance is obviously going to reflect that as well. So, yeah, let's hope it's onward and upward for Man United. I will admit to being a bit of a fan myself. So, yeah, good to see them winning
There's at the radio station I work in, there's a very, very distinct split between Chelsea supporters, Man City supporters, and Man United supporters. So it's a bit messy. It's a bit messy at work sometimes. Speaking about
Messy, I
Messi,
like
an
it.
honorary mention. Messi voted. Yeah, you see what I did there. Honorary
No,
mention to Messi. He was voted FIFA's best player of the year alongside Mbappe, based obviously on that Qatar World Cup that he did quite well in. Obviously, Messi went on to lift the trophy that he's been wanting to lift his entire career.
absolutely. What a way to sort of reach the pinnacle in one's field, in one's sport, to have that on your CV. And no one can take it away from him, even if he's only done it the once.
Absolutely, but well deserved. I mean, he's won that Ballon
No,
d'Or so
absolutely.
many times, and never got to lift the trophy. You got to feel for Cristiano Ronaldo, who's been in the same boat. Also, stellar career, at the top in every way, but never won a World Cup. Talking about players that never won a massive trophy until late in their career, Phil Mickelson is one
The
of
Rugby
those.
Proteas. Sorry.
Yeah, there's them. Phil Mickelson is one of those, and he's involved in the controversy with the Live Golf. But before we get to Live Golf, though, I just want to talk about one of the most inspirational comeback stories in the world of sport. And sport is a wonderful place for these kind of stories. Andy Murray got to the Qatar Men's Open tournament, where unfortunately he got to the finals, where unfortunately he lost to Medvedev. But if you just look at where Andy Murray's been in the last couple of years, it's remarkable, that he's playing as well as he is, and then he plays these super grueling matches to get to where he wants to be.
Oh, it can be a cruel game. I mean, as you say, like 2 years ago, he was in a hospital operating theatre having a hip replacement done. It's absolutely unbelievable to think that he's made it to pick up a tennis racket again on sort of the competitive space. Never mind just even having a knock around with his wife and kids at home type thing. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I just find in the world of tennis, there's a handful of players that when you watch them, they've got such talent and ability. Andy Murray, obviously one of them. But they always seem to land up in these grueling 5-set matches, whereas you'll get the likes of Djokovic who pitches up and he breezes through in 3 sets, or you get Nadal who most of the time breezes through also in 3 sets. But you always get an Andy Murray, and you just feel this poor guy is going to be, tested to the absolute limit. I think another one that springs to mind was, and also injury prone, was Juan Martín del Potro. He
Yes,
also used to always end up in these long
yes.
5-setters, also had lots of injury problems over his career. So it's almost this sort of kind of karma fate, whatever you want to call it, how the universe is working out there. But yeah, super to see Andy Murray doing so well. And again, he can hold his head up high, losing to Medvedev. He's been on a red hot streak of form. I think he's won the last two tournaments he's played in now back to back in the last 2 weeks. And I saw him last night. He's reached the quarterfinals in Dubai now, and he was looking absolutely solid. So yeah, tough player to beat. And I guess he's got his own challenges coming out of Russia. He's not always
Mm,
welcomed wherever he goes, but
mm.
take nothing away from his tennis talent and ability. He's a fantastic player. But yeah, good on Andy Murray. And I actually saw a piece earlier, or just following that loss to Medvedev, where Andy Murray says he still feels he may have a slam left in him, and he feels his best chance is going to be at home at Wimbledon. So that'll
Yes,
be lovely to see.
yes.
And yeah, kind of a little part of me's got to say, I'm going to be rooting him on just a little bit there, especially that we won't have Feds to be rooting for this year at Wimbledon.
Yeah, well, one of the golden eras of tennis, and there've been a few, but for me, with the golden eras of tennis, where the top four players was Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, and Andy Murray. That was when that was going on. Any tournament that had those four names in it was guaranteed to have a thrilling match at some point.
Well, very, very much so. And very interesting how the men have dominated, as you say, with those four, if you compare to the ladies' tennis, where I must be honest, ladies tennis is great to watch, but I'm kind of, who's this player? I haven't seen them before, but suddenly they've lifted like quite an important title, or won a big tournament, or even won a slam of late, but then they seem to fade away and disappear. Or you see them playing again and they look as though they can't beat sort of the 200th ranked player in the world. So very bizarre, the difference between men's and ladies tennis again. But yeah, absolutely, those four, hard to say who's the GOAT there.
There is a massive Serena Williams-sized hole in women's tennis at the moment. When she left, I think a lot of that dominance that she created
has she left? I've seen a few rumors where she's talking of coming back. So
really?
See.
Oh, yes, she's going to be like Tom Brady in football in the US. I've retired. No, wait, I've changed my mind. No, wait, I've changed my mind again. I've retired again. Right, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up with some controversy, Kev. I want your take on this. I watched a Netflix documentary the other day called Full Swing. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It's a behind-the-scenes look at a season of the PGA Golf Tour. Now, even if you're not a massive golf fan, I am, but if you're not a massive golf fan, you will love this season because it really gives you the emotion and the stresses that the players go through. One of the topics that ran through that last year, obviously, was the advent of live golf. And I mentioned Phil Mickelson. He was very much the first and biggest name to defect and then try to convince a whole bunch of others. But there have been some big names that have gone across there. Your British Open champion last year, the Australian guy, he's gone across for the money. Live golf versus PGA Tour. Kevin, go.
Well, you've just said it. They've gone across for the money. So money talks, unfortunately. I think we're seeing it in some of the other sporting codes as well. I mentioned to you off air just now. I mean, a lot of the guys defecting to these T20 cricket tournaments without playing international cricket. So I think it's going to be the same in golf. Not that there's not money on the PGA side of golf, but if something new comes along and the dollar signs are big enough there, and possibly it's players too in the PGA that sort of are not performing, or they just feel they're maybe wanting something different to go to. So I guess in the world of business, competition is healthy. So let's see how this one's going to pan out. But yeah, it's going to be where the money goes, where the TV rights go, where the sponsors go. Money will dictate, I guess, where it all ends up.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the leaders of the PGA Tour would agree with that. There's a lot of legacy and history in golf. Don't mess with it. And also, of course, because it's sponsored by Saudi Arabia, which doesn't have the greatest record on human rights. I think kind of makes it a little more controversial, but it'll be interesting because they've just had their first event of the season. It'll be interesting to see how, whether or not, because the other thing about sport is it needs spectators, it needs fans, right? So if the fans decide that live golf is a good thing and they're going to support it, at some point the controversy will die down. If the fans decide no, they don't like live golf and they are sticking with the PGA, or can the two exist side by side? I guess will be the thing that we have to weigh up, Kev.
Well, it's a phenomenally big sport globally. I mean, even from us amateurs that try and hack our way around a course every now and again to those who do it professionally. So for me, I don't think there'll be a lack of people interested. I think there will be support for it. I think you always need some kind of rebel influence, breakaway influence in a sporting code. I mean, you think along the lines what Tony Greig and Kerry Packer did to World Series cricket in Australia at the time, and cricket's still here sort of 40, 50 years later, and we'll still carry on ticking along. So I think golf could possibly survive with both going, to be honest. I think there's enough players to go around and enough fans, I think, as well. So let's see. Let's watch the space, as they say.
Sports with Kev. Watch out for episode 2, when that'll be. We'll figure that out.
Can I ask question a PS quickly?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
We can't leave this one out. Formula One starts.
Oh, yes, we forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, we're in is it Bahrain this weekend, I think. Max Verstappen looking good in all the warm-ups and the sort of pre-qualifying and all the racing he's done. But interestingly enough, despite all his championship wins the last 2 seasons, he's never won the opening race of a season in F1. And he's also not won in Bahrain before, but he's looking good and feeling confident. I'm a Max fan, but I mean, I also like to see some of the other guys doing well. I think what one wants in Formula One is competitiveness. It's boring to see the same guy round and round 70 laps every weekend, and he's got no competition. So hopefully it's going to be a competitive season again this season. And I'm sure it will be. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on that in the coming weeks and episodes.
Yeah, it's a nice course as well. I've been there once or twice for Ironman. We used it as our finish line. And it is a stunning,
the cars.
Yeah, well, I think the cars were slightly faster than the guys running on the track, but it is a beautiful venue. It really is. So make sure you catch up with that. All right, Kevy, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of the pilot episode. It's going to be called Kev the Sports Guy, and we look forward to having Kev the Sports Guy back with us. Thank you for your expertise.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Gordy. Great fun, and can't wait for the next episode. Cheers, everybody.